Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session, NDE 4.0 Global Efforts, Why, What, and How, with Johannes Vrana. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to the world of NDE 4.0. My name is Johannes Vrana, and it's great to be back at this great conference, at the ASNT Annual Conference 2020. And if you think back a couple of years, somewhere in 2017, this was really the year where we started the activities in regards to NDE 4.0. And already in 2018, we had the first session regarding NDE 4.0 at the ASNT conference, back in 2018. Now, already in 2019, we built up a group which we call the ASNT NDE 4.0 ambassadors. And it's really an international group. It's really to bring together all of the NDE 4.0 experts, all of the NDE 4.0 representatives of all the different national societies in one group and to talk to each other. And up to the moment we have, I think by now it's 17 countries which we are representing. And we are currently also talking about ICNDT to make this an official ICNDT group. We already had 5 meetings and we are working on a high-level roadmap for NDE 4.0. And here you can see kind of the members we have up to date. And there is one I want to point out really, because he is really the driver for the NDE 4.0 roadmap, and that's Ramon Salvador Fernandez Orozco from Mexico. Now, we also talked a lot about COVID. This is with COVID, and I will come to that topic a little bit later. We see quite an urge to get really this NDE 4.0 activity going fast. Now, one of the first things we talked about in the NDE 4.0 ambassadors was we tried to work on a definition. And this is what we came up with. So, NDE 4.0, a cyber-physical non-destructive evaluation arising out of a confluence of Industry 4.0 digital technology, physical inspection methods and business models to enhance inspection performance, integrity engineering, and decision-making for safety, sustainability, and quality assurance, as well as provide relevant data required to improve design, production, and sustenance maintenance. Now, I know this is a long definition, but if you look into it, you will see it's it touches actually all the things. But I will get during my presentation a little bit more into this definition and more about the what, the how, and the why. Now, knowing me, you know I'm a physicist, and normally I am really into the what. But today, I will be actually more speaking about the how and the why. So let's get going. Now, before we really get into the why, let's have a look into the definition of revolution, because NDE 4.0, this is supposed to be the 4th revolution of non-destructive evaluation. And if we look into the Cambridge Business English Dictionary, it says revolution is a big change or improvement in the way that something works or looks, or in the way that people do a particular activity. Now, looking into all of the industry revolutions and into all of the NDE revolution, we see that this is actually really accurate. We look into industry, it's really the move from handcraft, mechanization, technical, digital, and finally coming to the interconnected cyber-physical, Industry 4.0. And on the NDE part coming from perception, some simple tools, analog, digital, and also interconnected cyber-physical. Now, how we defined them, we really defined the NDE revolutions independent from the industrial revolution. We just looked for, okay, what made the NDE revolution a revolution? And therefore, the timetable for the NDE revolutions and the industry revolutions, they are off by a bit. And most of the times, NDE is a little bit delayed, but doesn't matter. Now, what we can also see here is that with every revolution, actually industry and NDE are growing together. They are coming to one. And this is really the point of NDE 4.0. We are really getting entangled with industry. Now, talking about the why. Why did we do, or why do we have all of those revolutions, both in industry and in NDE? And it's pretty simple. It's all human motivation. If you think back before the first industrial revolution, life wasn't good. You were lucky if you could afford one set of clothes as an average person. You were lucky if you had enough food and water to have a good life. So it was really about physiology. Now, with the first revolution, actually, clothes became cheap, employment became more or less, or more people got employed, people could think about their health and their family. So they were moving up one level in Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The same with the second revolution, and the same with the third revolution. If you look in our current life, and we really experienced the third revolution out of our heart because we just lived in this third revolution. Then people talking about, oh, my car is bigger, or I have the better job. This is really esteem. This is really this fourth hierarchy in the hierarchy of needs according to Abraham Maslow. Now, with the fourth revolution, we are looking into that we actually, that we move away from all those repetitive tasks and to get into what a human's really good at, to be creative, to be spontaneous, to solve problems. So with the fourth revolution, we are really getting into self-actualization. Now, looking into a revolution, if we have some development, it's kind of slowly developing. But after some duration, there's actually some event, and then suddenly you have something fast moving, and that's a revolution. Actually, a revolution, it will create jobs, but with a different skill set required. It will lead to economic growth, but with changed business models. It will lead to society changes. And normally it's triggered by at least one short-term event or crisis. And if you would have asked me last year, I would have told you that was Hannover Method 2011, where they defined the term Industry 4.0. But no, I don't think so. If I think now about what will define this fourth revolution, I think it will be COVID-19. Now, let's have a look into an example. Let's go back to the second revolution of NDE on the example of ultrasonic testing. And actually back then, it was three crises or three catastrophes which really led to the development of ultrasonic testing like we know it nowadays. It was first the Titanic that people started to think about, perhaps it's better to use an ultrasonic echo ranging underwater than somebody standing on top of a mast and looking for, is there somewhere an iceberg? First World War, sonar system, and Second World War, and now this was really the birth of ultrasonic testing. And in about all the countries around the world, or in all the countries participating in the Second World War, they all developed ultrasonic methods at the same time without knowing from each other. Now, what happens if we come to such a crisis? Usually, if we talk about business, we are talking about efficiency. We want to maximize our profitability, but actually it leaves our organization vulnerable during a crisis. So what we need is resiliency, the capacity to absorb impacts and maintain our functionality. So actually every crisis shows the value of resiliency And that actually is what triggers all the technical revolutions. Now, and because with a technical revolution, if we are in our normal way of doing everything efficient, we can either improve speed and quality, or quality and cost, or cost and speed, but not all three of them at the same time. With a revolution, we can actually improve all three at the same time. And that is really what makes it why we have to do NDE 4.0 and why we have to do it now. Now coming a little bit to the what is NDE 4.0. Now NDE 4.0, it's an ecosystem, and we have really three big parts to it. There is Industry 4.0 for NDE. This is the use of all the emerging technologies like augmented reality, artificial intelligence, robotics, 5G, blockchains, or quantum computers in the future. That is the one side of it. There's a second side to it, and I call it NDE for Industry 4.0. NDE becoming one of the data sources for Industry 4.0, using the Industrial Internet of Things and using digital twins. And last, but definitely not least, we have consider humans. We have to do human considerations. And this is talking about human-computer interfaces, user experience, training, career transition, human factors, ethics, all of this. And those three things together, this is really what makes NDE 4.0. And how do we get there? Now, if we look into our NDE community, we see that, yeah, we are all concerned about one asset, about a component, about a welding structure or whatever. And we have somebody producing that asset. We have somebody owning and operating that asset. We have our inspectors doing the inspections on the asset. We have equipment manufacturers for NDT equipment. And in support, we have some R&D centers, inspection service providers, regulatory and certification bodies, inspector training schools, universities, and many more. Now, we did a survey to find out really which topics of NDE 4.0 are most critical for all those groups. Now, unfortunately, up to the moment, we didn't get a sufficient answer base on our survey. So therefore, I cannot give you the differentiation between all the groups. But I can give you a first look into the results of that survey. And if you haven't filled out that survey, please go to that link, which you see at the bottom of the slide, and fill out our survey. Now, this is the overall topic importance for all the groups in a mix. And what we can see that we have two of them sticking out. One of them being NDE workflow digitalization, and one of them being validation and reliability. Now, this survey is really for the development of our NDE 4.0 roadmap, so that we can see which topics are really the most important ones, so that we can start working on it, so that we can guide others and show them, okay, those are really the points our community is most concerned about. Now, validation, reliability, there is actually already a group working on it. And that group is led by Daniel Kanzler. And what he started doing, he took the model, which was actually created by Christina Müller. And what she did, she said, okay, if we have an NDT system, we have several factors which influence our reliability. Number one, the intrinsic factors, the environmental factors, the human factors, and the organizational factors. Now, with NDE 4.0, with using all those emerging technologies for NDE, we have a fourth partner coming into this triangle. And therefore, it's not a triangle anymore. And therefore, we have now up here also the algorithms we have to put into our thoughts about, okay, how reliable are the algorithms? And how is the because we are reducing human factors with the algorithms. But what are we introducing with the algorithm? So it's a big question. We started working on it. And this is about the first slide I can show you of that work. Now there's a second big part. Now this here, reliability, for me, reliability is one of the most important factors for NDE 4.0. The other really important factor, but this is more for this part I named NDE for Industry 4.0. So to give Industry 4.0 the data industry needs. And that requires actually data transparency. And there are really 4 pillars to data transparency. One is standardized, open, and well-documented data formats and interfaces. So no more proprietary interfaces. We have to get away from them. We also need something which is called semantic interoperability. So that a computer can actually take the data and make out of data information which can then be converted by some artificial intelligence or by some digital twins into knowledge. Because this is really what we need. We need knowledge to improve our production, our design, and our maintenance. Third part, data security. We need to make sure that if data is transferred from A to B, that nobody outside can actually read that data, because data has a value. But if I transferred A to B in a secure way, who tells me that my receiver doesn't take the data, put it on a USB stick, and give it to somebody else? Nothing. And actually nothing from a legal and from a technical base. So what we need is we need to put data sovereignty, data ownership into our NDAs. And we need to establish technical systems which make sure that if somebody receives data, that you not only give them the data, but also something which describes, okay, how can they use that data? And this is actually why the German Society for Non-Destructive Testing, in cooperation with the Austrian Society for Non-Destructive Testing, created a memorandum of understanding for data transparency. And I'm asking all of you, if you have interest in this topic, that you get in contact with me and ask me for this memorandum of understanding, because we need all of you to sign this, because this is really one of the key elements to make NDE 4.0 happen. And we have to make it happen because I can already see some of the big players like IBM, like SAP, like also perhaps Google, getting into NDE and not even knowing that they are doing NDE. Okay, besides that, there is one more topic I want to talk about on the road to NDE 4.0 for the moment, and that's training. We all know our typical NDE training, level 1, level 2, level 3, and perhaps then somebody with some university degree on top of that. Those are all people with specific knowledge to the NDE domain. On the other side, we have programmers and math experts, because it's really the math experts who are doing the data analysis. And you can also say you have an entry level, a mid-level, and an expert data engineer. What we need so that we can talk to each other, actually the data engineers, they need some basic NDE training. The good part is our training institutes, they can, this is actually, it's a kind of a basic level 3 knowledge we have to give to those data engineers. So the training institutes can already offer the training they need to become an NDE data engineer. On the other side, we need NDE data operators. We need somebody to put the data into a database. We need somebody really to work together with all those digital systems, with an AI, with all those advanced robotics, with autonomous flying robots or drones. And then we need in between somebody who is an expert in kind of everything. Math, IT, NDE, UX design, and so on. Now, if you look into this middle, this is where I see our universities. They have to do this training part. And over here, yeah, you can already book it. Now, one of the things out of such a training, which I think is really important to understand, and it's actually easier for somebody speaking English than in about any other language. And that's the differentiation between digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. Now, digitization and digitalization in German and Spanish and Japanese, they are exactly the same words. Luckily, in English, it isn't. But out of my experience, most of the people do not know actually the difference between the two of them. And the difference is so important because digitization, it's just a conversion from analog information into digital information. So taking a sheet of paper, putting it onto your scanner, and making a PDF out of it. That's digitization. And I bet all of you are already doing that. All of you are using an email. That's digitization. This is Industry 3.0. Digitalization is something completely different. It is making processes digital. It is making businesses digital. So you can see where this is going. This is really, now we are on the road to the fourth revolution. And finally, once we reach a digital transformation, we are somewhere in the center of the fourth revolution, because now it's really, you have perhaps an AI from IBM. You have an IoT from some other company. You have some ERP system from SAP. You have an engineering planning system from Siemens. And all of those systems actually have to work together to improve your design, your engineering, your manufacturing, and perhaps to even improve your pricing. And there's not one company on this planet who can do a digital transformation by themselves. It has to be all of us coming together and working on this. Otherwise, it will not work. This is why I think it is so important also that we get into the groups which actually discuss the digital transformation and bring NDE into this game. Now, coming back a little bit to the how of NDE 4.0, those are for me three of the most critical steps. Data transparency, this is really for NDE being a data source for Industry 4.0, and reliability and training being important for all NDE 4.0. Now, to give you some basic knowledge of NDE 4.0, to get people talking about it, to get people on board, I've actually started a YouTube channel in March of this year, where I'm talking every week either about NDE 4.0, about all different kinds of topics around NDE 4.0, and up to the moment, 17 different videos. I'm also talking about some of the basics of some of the methods. For example, ultrasonic testing already did 5 videos. Now, this is not really for the NDE community, even that some of the NDE community might enjoy it. It's more for the outside world. It's more for the Industry 4.0 world to show them the value of NDE data and show them how to access us as a community and that they need us. As a third part, I invite guests. And up to the moment, it was Rippy Singh, Leonard Schulenberg, and Ramon Salvador Fernandez Orozco. And next Tuesday, it will actually be Mary Beth Michelli, talking about the effect of COVID-19 on NDT. And for sure, of all of those guests, what I'm doing after that presentation, you have the chance to ask questions. And then a video later on, we actually discuss your question. There are also already some special issues about NDE 4.0 out. Materials evaluation is already available. That was the first. Second is the research in NDE, which is coming out one of those days by now. And Journal of NDE will be published, I guess, somewhere at the end of this year or beginning of next year. And last but not least, we are currently in the process of organizing the first international conference on NDE 4.0. Now with COVID, we had to go virtual, and that's why we split that conference. First part in 2021, we're doing a virtual conference. We're doing actually 2 runs of every presentation to accommodate all the time zones around the planet. We have 18 invited presentations. We have a special session for national societies. We have 4 panel discussions. And you can find more on this link, 2021.nde4.0.com. And in 2022, we will repeat the same, as a face-to-face conference in Munich in Germany, again in April 2022. So, thank you for everybody for listening, everybody for joining this world of NDE 4.0, this world of collaboration. And I welcome everybody to get in touch with us, to ask us anything you like, because for me, it's really, we have to work together on it. And that means we also have to talk with each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. We do have a couple questions in the Q&A, and we have a few minutes. The first one's pretty easy. Will the presentation be available? Are there handouts or anything?
I will put them for sure on ResearchGate.
Okay.
If you want to have access to that presentation, just send me an email. You see my email address right here, and I will send it to you.
Yes. One question. What would be the expected education path for a development into NDE data engineer from both NDE and software engineer? Have training schools been implementing this at both software and specifically schools that host both NDE and software programming programs?
I know that Hellier is offering some courses, but besides that, pretty limited up to the moment. Now, what needs to be done is kind of, if you come more from the software side, actually, I think the way is perhaps, a little bit easier, because they can just go and take a level 3 basic or some level 3 attached courses, and they will get the basic knowledge they need, perhaps, and but still they have to work together with somebody from the NDE side. Now, from NDE to come to a data engineer level, that will be more tricky, because it's this huge variety of emerging technologies we are speaking about. And for each of them, you could do a 2-semester course or a 4-year course or something like that. With artificial intelligence, this is something you can really specialize in. Augmented reality is perhaps a little bit easier. Blockchains, it's also really challenging. And if you look into quantum computers, you have to be a physicist, really into quantum optics to see how they are working. So you see, this is kind of the situation, but there are courses available you can take at least to get basic knowledge you need as an NDE person to prepare yourself for this future.
Thank you so much. And that takes us to the end of our session.